Hey guys, here is what we have for today. Bushmalt, Olde Bushmalt is from Murphy and McNeil, and it's the soap. I haven't used a Murphy and McNeil soap in a long time. Don't use it too often in my channel. It kind of came with a lot of hype when they first released their site, and you know, tons of hype and just kind of normal performance. It's usually a detractor for me, honestly. However, I do love their you know, kind of Scottish and Celtic heritage. I'm half Scotch and Irish myself, and so and also some of the designs just, you know, look really cool. And this one is one that kind of has some drink notes in it, like whiskey and that sort of thing. We'll cover a little bit more from my notes as we get on with it. We'll be doing the Slurry Lather today with that, and that's why I'm using this soap. I haven't used this one ever before. It's a used one I got in. Sorry about the glare with their kind of reflective surface here. Yeah, I guess it's not reflective necessarily, but it's just silver or gray, and so it just naturally does a little bit of that. The brush is a B4 Declaration Grooming knot that's been soaking, and it is a That Darn Rob handle. Same as Chisel and Hound, just the older name from his company. Very good handle maker. And we'll be using this version 7 of the Pearl Flexi. And, oh, you know what? I need to use my Osprey. That's actually what I need to use because I'm still in my trial period about that one. Maybe we'll use that little mistake I just made with choosing the wrong razor. I had forgotten I had my Osprey over on my desk instead of here in the bathroom. My Flexi is one that I like a good bit, and it just I'd been wanting to evaluate it more lately. It's always been a successful razor for me, and so I have it in here. But I forgot that I need to think about my Osprey, because the only detractors that I have for it so far is the handle, the verticalness. It gets slippery when soapy and when wet, and also because of this. I mean, but it's gorgeous, and so but the threading here doesn't really inspire confidence with the holding. It's not really a feel that I like when I'm shaving with a razor, but I love the looks of it. And so who knows, maybe the looks will trump the feel in the case of this gorgeous razor. So this is the Blackland Osprey, and this is a replacement head. They sent me a replacement because, and when I say head, what I actually mean is the base plate assembly, kind of a normal looking top cap. The base plate assembly has the base plate that goes up and down. This bottom part does not go up and down, and here's the adjustment dial. So let's get that loaded up. Well, first, actually, I want to, yeah, I shared with you about the brush and all of the other tools, so I can move on to the shave. I received the first base plate assembly I got from Shane at Blackland when I ordered my stainless Osprey. And it's the polished version of, you can probably tell. And it's gorgeous, right? But it was really hard for me to adjust. I couldn't really even get it past comfortably like a 5. Now, right now with this one, I can get it up to about an 8.5. So that's pretty good. And you know why? It's because I've been working it. And it's because I have it disassembled from the razor. It's easier. You can get more grip on it. It's very grabby. If I adjust it too much in that higher range, you can feel it. I can feel it in my skin, like I've been grabbing sandpaper and rubbing it on my skin. There's like an abrasion to it. And it's hard to adjust on those higher ranges when the razor is assembled, and the handle here keeps you from getting the ability to grab the corners there. But after talking to Shane, he encouraged me to just work it some. And that's something I didn't want to do without his say-so, because he knows the construction. And so he said it should loosen up if you work it more. And indeed, that seems to be what's happening. Because right now, with the razor off, I can move it up to about an 8. and earlier I did at 8.5, and that's almost the entire adjustment range, right? So I shouldn't complain about that. And while we're shaving, I'll test the range here. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to shave at a high aggression level today. Matt, why don't we just start at a 6, which I've used a 4 before. You know what? Let's do an 8. Let's go crazy. I rarely ever shave at the higher ranges, but I can always back it off. Plus, I've got a week or two of growth here, and so I got to feel in the harshness of as I put my Wilkinson sword blade on in the razor. The harshness there is going to be mitigated by the beard that I have today. And so what we'll do is, after that first pass is gone, that second pass where there's less hair and the high gap of the higher setting, we'll see how they work together then, kind of for real. He said in his video, you don't have to crank it down super hard. Okay, so it is on 8. The side that has this little V, this triangle here, is the pointer indicator side. The other one doesn't have really a pointer, and it says Blackland right there. So don't want to get that mixed up. So Wilkinson sword right there. I am going to give my face some soap right now with a little bit of a face wash since I have a long beard. All right, so we can now work on the soap. Face is washed. You can see the last person kind of cleaned it up a little bit with like his finger or something. Oh yeah, you can smell that. And I may actually keep this guy around and use him more than some of the other Murphy and McNeil soaps and samples that I have, because he's got plum in him, and I really like the plum scent. You don't get that in a ton of soaps. But aside from the plum, I think we've got whiskey in this, cedar, balsam, and vanilla. It's an homage to maybe a cologne or something called single malt, is what my little index card here says. But here's the thing, that index card could be from another soap. I forgot to put the title across the top, and it's been sitting there for a couple of months, right? Waiting for me to try this soap. But honestly, I mean, unless it's the power of suggestion that's tricking me, pretty sure I can smell the plum and like the cedar and balsam and the vanilla. Whiskey? Maybe. Definitely that kind of leaning, so that's cool. All right, so with the Slurry Lather method, I'm going to go with a very wet brush into this puck here. I'm going to count the strokes, and I'll usually say it by 10 for you guys. So it's pretty much a saturated brush here, and I'm not going to shake too much out. Maybe just that one shake is all I'm going to do, and we'll just start counting. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I waited until the lather got a little less watery, till it firmed up just a bit before I stopped. And so that's what my eyes were looking for as I was mixing and loading. I'm going to turn the soap upside down over my lather bowl and let that excess kind of drain into that. And this is not all part of the Slurry Lather method. You don't have to do this. This is just kind of soap conservation, you know, taking a little bit of this excess. The Slurry Lather method that I've kind of come up with is not one, and I've said this many times, is not one that I'm the first one to have this dawn on, right? To me, it seems to be a pretty intuitive method that, you know, many of our grandfathers probably used because it's a fast method. It's maybe what I would use if I'm in a hurry, because it keeps a lot of slickness while still being fast. And you don't have to spend your time either with working up that first pass of lather with face lathering. You don't have to spend the time working up your mature lather in the bowl because that initial slurry, that froth that you saw coming out of the, yep, right there, coming out of the tub and stuff, and what you see on my face right now, this slurry is what I'm calling a slurry because it's very wet, it's highly slick, and it's great to shave with. And I can just stop. I don't have to take it to anything mature at this point. Seems like with the way this has slurried up right away that this is going to be a good soap, as pretty much all of them are. Very few soaps have been bad with the slurry lather method. Actually, the only ones that have been not great were ones that had a container that was kind of small, and that was really the issue, was the container. And so we're going to see, this is a great time to try the 8 settings since I'm taking off quite a bit of growth. And this is not a premium blade by any means. It's a really good budget blade. I recommend you guys try them out, because if they do happen to work well for you, then you have a great blade at a low cost. We'll also see if this razor clogs up, and sure enough it has. Yep. Now we'll do some rinsing away here. We'll see how easy it rinses and the clogs clear with yep, not very well. So it looks like not very well with just kind of a quick jet of water. So I'm going to have to adjust, open up the razor a little bit here. I'm not going to change the adjustment knob. I'm just going to loosen the handle. Yeah, that seemed to do fine with it. Tighten it back up. The slipperiness of this, you know, the machined razor may have an advantage in terms of grip when wet. And then we will keep on going. Now, the slickness here is not really going to be detectable when we're in such a long mode. I may not have to disassemble it. If I rinse more often. Nah, looks like I'm going to have to. But that's just proof that you don't have to have an open comb razor if you don't want one. I am interested to see how this 8th setting feels. Loosening the head. Generally does seem to be clearing the razor pretty well. And this is an extreme case. You know, most guys are not going to wait this long between shaves. And there we go. Well, we got some more here. There we go. So this may not be quick today since I'm having to do so much kind of razor loosening for this first pass. But there we go. That's done. All right, a little water on my face. So just because it was a high setting like the 8 doesn't mean that it was going to be able to clear away that stubble when it's so excessive, like a couple of weeks of growth. Now, we'll see what kind of slurry happens on the second pass here. Oh, it's great that we see the dripping. That means we got plenty of water, hydrated, you know. I'm not saying this is a clean method. And just right there, I can stop. I could now, you know, if you want to modify this method and spend a little bit more time working that lather in, Nothing wrong with that. Spend too much time, you may not want to call it the slurry lather method. Now right now though, right there was some drag. It wasn't super slick. Yeah, that's interesting. That's when I feel it, it feels kind of oily slick, but it doesn't feel soup. That is very interesting. I wonder what's going on. Maybe this particular base, I think it might be the Slancha base. It had that written in written on the label right before the ingredients. Maybe this base is a little more on the like oils and butter side, because yeah, this does not, to a wet hand, it feels slick. But see, I've never had this razor have drag before. And yeah, the feel on the handle here is quite slippery. I imagine that's something you'd get used to, and you don't have to worry too much because he added a little bit of the flare at the end of the handle, and so even if it kind of slips to that point, you know, you're going to be able to grab it and hold on to it safely. Water on my face. Now that'll be really interesting to see what happens now on this third pass. We can kind of, if you're in a hurry, which is popular with this method, I could stop right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of see what the lather works itself up into. I could even get back in my lather bowl here, pick up a little bit of that slurry water. So here at the third pass, in many cases, with other soaps, with most soaps, if you've kind of done everything with the slurry lather process correctly, you will end up with that mature part of the lather. But the slurry lather being the method where I am just starting out with a whole lot of water in the beginning, not bringing the lather to maturity, but using that kind of frothy slurry as what I shave with the first pass. With a little bit more mixing in the second pass, that starts to move toward being a mature lather for the second pass. Then with more mixing, finally you land at the third pass where you've kind of got something more mature. And so then you're not using up a lot of time building up your lather, because by the time you've built it up to kind of maturity, you're on your third pass and you've already had 2 passes down. I like the scent of this a lot. It's kind of smooth and on the savory side. There's nothing punchy about it, like no bergamot, cedar, the high cedar parts. There's a little bit of cedar in here, but it's more muted by the other ingredients. It's a softer scent. That's right in my wheelhouse. I enjoy that. However, if I use it with other razors and it has that same drag like I have with this razor, then I probably won't think that it's worth keeping. Because that's that kind of pure slickness aspect that it's kind of a big deal to me. Osprey, and to remind you, we're working still on a setting of 8. We've taken out most of the growth at this point, and I'm going to be very careful with this third pass. Since we've got an aggressive setting, I haven't played around with this setting yet. Prior to this shave, I think 4 was the highest I went. So I'm going to be careful. I'm going to go cross grain, and we'll see what it feels like. And I'm sure that it's going to give me a nice close shave. Yeah, boy, I can feel that kind of drag. That is just interesting. This soap base is not inspiring me that I've got a lot of protection here. People talk about cushion and protection, and I don't really know what people are talking about in terms of cushion, unless you just mean thickness. viscosity. And I don't like a lot of viscosity. I want hydration. I do want a little bit of viscosity. I call it lightly creamy to give you kind of a luxury feel. But in general, that thickness is going to not have as much slickness as something that's thinner because of water. As long as it hasn't broken, you know, there's a point where you add too much water and it just kind of breaks and it doesn't have that slickness anymore. Yeah, see, I feel the aggression that the blade has put on my skin. I feel that I have, it seems like I have used a setting that's higher than usual. It hasn't felt that way as I was moving the blade across my skin. It felt very good, but now that kind of irritation is starting to come out a little bit and show itself to the point where I don't really want to go back and do any touch-ups. You know, because I feel like I've got that tenderness and a little tiny bit of irritation. I don't want to exacerbate that, right? Okay, well now let's take that opportunity to see if I can adjust the razor comfortably. With the Osprey, Shane does say to loosen the handle a little bit when you make an adjustment. See, I can't really turn it from the 8. With my wet hands and with the handle on it, I can't. I have to get a towel, and to be honest, I got this Barrister and Mann 42 towel. I don't really want to use it on this knurling because it could bite and actually cut the fibers because of what I feel like it does to my skin. We'll take it down to I've enjoyed this all the way down to a 1. But, well, yeah, so let's take it down to like a 2. So that's kind of a chore. I wish that I could adjust it just with my wet hands. Most other adjustables you can. It's possible, since it is gradually loosening up over time, that with more uses, it will be easier to adjust. All right. Yeah, let's get a splash of water here. And with that tender skin that I've gotten now, that cool water was a very welcome feeling, soothing. And I've used the Osprey before, and so I don't think I need to get some water. I've kind of used up all the water that was in the brush. This knot being very dense doesn't hold a ton of water. That is the beauty of the slurry method, because you know you can shave with that light slurry. Here I am at the end. I need to go back. If I did need to go back and load more soap, I wouldn't have to build it up into another lather again, right? Okay, setting of 2. And on the 4th pass, just kind of going to clean up. You know, I bet my cheeks are actually okay. And this is just going to safely get the pickups, the stubble that I didn't get before. And it's going to do it without giving me any irritation. And one thing I did notice on one of my shaves with the Osprey, it holds the blade really well and solidly. And so I can actually, in this dangerous place right here, I can go against the grain with it if I'm on my 3rd pass, something like that. And if I'm at a 2 or a 1, then it's safe enough for me to do that. And that is very rare. Virtually just 3 other razors I can do that with. Now the razor is moving pretty well. So I think it's this Murphy and McNeil base. It just needs, even when it looked like it had plenty of water, it didn't. And this could be like a few of the soaps out there where if I get it to look kind of lightly creamy, then it's still too dry. It needs more water, and it almost has to be runny for me to get that slickness that I want. And so that's not really an optimum base for me because there are so many others, Sterling and Mammoth. But Sterling, it's worth mentioning because I know Sterling is cheaper than Murphy and McNeil. And so Declaration Grooming and Barrister and Mann, Summer Break. Who's that other one I really like a lot that's kind of new to the game, newish. I can't remember. But yeah, interesting about the slickness there. It looked all mature in that third pass, but it felt very slow. That's good to know. Good to know. Do they have any butters or things like that in here? Beer is the first ingredient. Stearic acid, duck fat, mutton tallow, beef tallow, goat milk, castor oil, kokum butter, vegetable, glycerin, shea butter, lanolin, clay, tessa silk. Yeah, I think I've had a similar experience to this with the kind of the lack of slickness at what appeared to be a slick viscosity, and some of those same ingredients were in the list. So I don't know science-wise what's going on, but I've mentioned it in terms of a slow kind of slickness. Like when you have a very light oil and you put it on some metal, then you get a very fast kind of slickness. You know, the gears just, everything works really well and fast. And that kind of slickness especially is in like the older soaps like Fine Accoutrements, Classic Puck, the tallow version of Tabac, especially those guys. And then there's a slower kind of slickness with like a thicker oil. And you take those two metal pieces and you put a thicker oil between them, and they don't quite move against each other as quick. And you can almost feel it in your face, a little bit more oily or buttery, you know, and that usually shows itself to me in the experience as slowness, and it can make a shiny razor like this kind of grab your face a little bit more and where you have a little bit more drag. Not the razor's fault. I've shaved with this razor now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, and I've never experienced that kind of slowness with this razor. So it's definitely the lather's fault, the soap's fault here for that. But I did not with this blade generate any kind of irritation, the Wilkinson sword here. And this, I believe, is not the German one. I think it's the Indian model. It doesn't say classic on it. So I think it's that one. Very good. Let's get a final rinse. Now, this might be the kind of slickness, the kind of irritation, the kind of tenderness that I have right now. It might be that kind that is only going to be fleeting and will go away after just a little bit. Let's hope that's the case. What do we have? Oh, hey, you know what I think will be pretty compatible with this? I've got Full Measure of Man from Barrister and Mann. I just got the balm in, and it is a used one. I bought it mainly because of the cologne came with the set, and I thought, hey, why not have the balm too? So let's try that. On a wet face, it should spread around pretty easily. Oh, what a good scent. So the Osprey, still some of the same weaknesses with in terms of like slipperiness when wet. Surely, when it was at the high ranges, it did not adjust very easily. Taking some of this extra balm that's on my hands and wanting that awesome scent. Putting it on my arms to enjoy that in more than one way. From more than one place in your body. Get more of the scent going on here. So that was very nice. That is just a great scent. I love the Full Measure Mann soap. So I finally get to try it in the balm. All right. Gonna do some cleanup. So it would seem that Murphy and McNeil here needs to be run at a wetter look than I normally like. By the time I get to that creamy, lightly creamy look, it is too dry. And I start to get that drag with the razor. To my fingers, it feels great, but to the razor, I get that drag. And I guess it's just the material, you know, that metal on skin, something about that. But the, the 8 setting took down the couple of weeks of growth. It did clog a bit, and so I had to open it up, but then it would pretty easily unclog under the just kind of normal flowing sink water. And it did generate a bit of irritation for me, but very light. Like right now, I barely feel any of it. And that's kind of good news, because I wasn't really ever going to shave at such a high setting anyway. And it's nice to know that for some reason, if I ever wanted to go so high, that it's not going to just totally make mincemeat of my face in a way that I'm going to feel it in a half an hour or an hour. And I've definitely had razors do that. So that's good. So it does seem like that adjustment range, while I'll probably stay around a 2 or even a 1 for daily shaves, when I have shaved the day before. I'll probably stick with those really comfy settings, and I believe they've been efficient settings as well. I don't believe I've been lacking in any kind of nice close cutting action. So I did adjust it on the fly with wet hands, and it didn't really work very well. And Shane said it was supposed to get tighter and harder to adjust when you got at higher numbers. But see, he took this same head before he sent it to me. He quality controlled it, looked at it, and I think he was able to move it through the entire range. Whereas when I first got it, I could only move it to like a 6 or something without some extra tool, Now maybe he has big burly hands because he works with his hands, and so maybe that's a part of the issue. But I don't have little girly hands here. I'm not a construction worker or a ditch digger or anything like that, but I don't have girly hands. So to me, it seems a little hard to adjust. I don't think anything would have been damaged during shipping, because Shane always ships with just amazing amounts of packaging and protection for what he's shipping. So I guess it's just the difference between his hands and mine in terms of it being easy to adjust. Or within the normal range. He did say it should get a little tighter when you got to the higher settings. All right, well, that's enough for now. A good shave with the Osprey. I kind of expected it to be aggressive at this level, and it was. And so that's not a big surprise. And now I don't feel very much any tenderness at all. So the balm is going to help me with that. And the Wilkinson sword, I think, worked very well. It was under control back when I tuned it down to a 2. It didn't give me any extra irritation, and it did polish off those last remaining hair strands. So there we go. Thanks so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.